That's right. We're back. Jill Savage, I saw you were liking the early rant of a madman, me. What do you got? What do you want to add to it? Is there anything you'd like to add to it?
You know, I think this is the kind of energy that we need to start out 2022, Dan. I was loving it this morning because it's one of those things. It feels like for 2-3 years now, we've just had all this BS just flying at us, right? Like over and over and over again. We look at the truth and they say, oh, that's not it. Don't look at that. You can't talk about that. And then it's like the CNN story, right? That came out that, oh, if you're fat, it's going to cause more problems in health in general, but also with COVID. And like, hey, we've known this forever, but you couldn't say it. You were never allowed to say it. And it feels like, Dan, I think you're with me. It feels like the tide is turning. It feels like there have been enough people that have had enough of this BS that are just like, you know what? I'm going to come out. And even if it causes me harm, you said like the numbers on the show, if they start going down, who cares? Right? Like I'm going to say what I'm going to say. And it's so funny that that's how you started out your show, because that was one of my things. I don't do really like New Year's resolutions, but I thought, you know what, like going into this year, I'm just going to say the things that I believe in. And like you said, like God bless Clay Travis, because he will allow us to do that. That was one of the things that really intrigued me about Outkick in the beginning. Was he's like, hey, you can tweet whatever you want. You can say whatever you want. I don't care. Like, I'll support you. And that's how it should be. But that's not how it is in a lot of places. So I think, like I said, this is the energy that we need for 2022.
There you go. You know what? And truthfully, it's one of the reasons why Outkick is growing. It's one of the reasons. I mean, people are now seeing through bullshit. Like the other day, AOC set me free in a funny way when she said, Republicans are frustrated because they can't have sex with her, so that's why they're criticizing. So I'm saying from now on, anybody that criticizes me is sexually frustrated because of all this. You know what I mean? I mean, it's one of those deals where, but Jill, let me ask you, why does CNN or AOC have to say it to make us feel okay to say it? Do you see what I'm saying?
Oh, right.
Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Right?
Because we would have the backlash no matter what. They would find something. And it's like, even if all of the statistics came out, right? Like I put yesterday, right. I was like, oh, so they admit the test didn't work anymore, right? Like the CDC came out and said, oh, you can stop testing after you tested positive for COVID because there's a period of time where there's still going to be positive tests when it's just dead in your system. The CDC said it. Like we've known that forever. But now they came out and said that. And they're like, oh, by the way, cloth masks don't work. And then there's a guy who was like coming at me yesterday. He's like, well, why do you think doctors wear them in the office if it doesn't work? And I'm like, you mean to tell me that a doctor wearing a mask in a sterile room in surgery is to try and prevent the spread of an airborne virus? No, that's not why they wear them. Like it's completely different. But it's like we've been now allowed to say it because, like you said, CNN, AOC, like whoever it is, the CDC directors, like they've said it now, but we've already had the statistics, right? Like Sweden didn't go along with the rest of the madness of this crazy world. We've seen this for so long, and it's like, all right, I'm completely over it. I'm going to state the truth, and I don't care.
The most liberal of newspapers is the Indy Star. Like the Indy Star is just so ridiculous, and their writer came out today. One of them, I think their Metro writer said, we shouldn't, after years and years and years, not years and years and years, after a year and a half of, we want to know every public figure that's vaccinated. We must know everybody's today. Well, maybe we shouldn't. Well, no kidding, right? I mean, it drives me nuts. Dan, I'm glad.
What they say, though, is they say everything that we said just 2 years later.
Right.
So we are ahead of the curve. They eventually will come out. Everything.
If I could give you I'm giving you a virtual high five. Yes.
Everything that was labeled misinformation is not misinformation. It's just too early for them to admit that it's the truth.
It's refreshing. Yeah. It's refreshing. Anyway. Let's talk a little sports, but I would rather talk about this, actually. Indianapolis, by the way, Indianapolis is all up in arms because yesterday an Atlanta Journal-Constitution headline said, if you're going to Indy, obviously George is going. if you're going to Indy, bring a coat and bring a lot of money because Indianapolis is overpriced. And everybody in here took offense to that. I think we got to be a little tougher. Yeah, you want to see overpriced? We'll double everything. Yeah, hope the wind blows it. Just give them hell. Who wins, Georgia, Alabama?
Oh, we talked about this before the SEC championship game, and we were talking about underdog Nick Saban, and you don't bet against him.
Ooh.
But this time, and I know, we just did this, and it felt wrong then, and it feels wrong now. But it feels like coming off of the college football playoffs, the semifinal games, it feels like Georgia is the better team. Georgia was the better team all season long. Alabama went into that SEC championship game off a terrible performance in the Iron Bowl. Their offensive line deserves the most credit for the biggest turnaround from 1 week to the next that we saw in that SEC championship game, where they had, they were giving Bryce Young enough time, enough protection that he went out there and set SEC championship game records for passing yards and total yards. That being said, coming off this, how do you not like Georgia in the way that they were able to come through and just completely annihilate Michigan? I was so looking forward to that game, Dan. I was like, all right, Alabama, Cincinnati, it was the warm up. Let's really settle in now on the couch. No, it was such a disappointment. And Stetson Bennett, it looked like he found his rhythm. He had the best passer rating of any quarterback in the college football playoff. So I don't know. I feel terrible betting against Nick Saban, but Georgia is again the favorite by 2 points. So this is how Vegas sees it, and it just feels like this is what Georgia was building up to the entire season. And against my better judgment, I'm still going to go with Georgia at this time.
How does I'm with you. Look, Nick Saban in the points. I used to say Urban Meyer in the points when he was at Ohio State, and it only happened once, and he won 52-0, getting 3 points against Wisconsin in the Big Ten Championship. I feel the same way. I don't feel dirty betting against Nick Saban. I feel stupid betting against Nick Saban. There are some coaches I feel like dirty betting on. You know what I mean? That guy's filthy, but I got to bet on him. I feel stupid. How does... Other than the simple answer is, Bryce Young throws for 500 yards.
Yeah.
But how does Alabama beat Georgia this time based on how Georgia just played? Because they were dominant.
Yeah, and it's still going to have to be through the air, because even in that wonderful SEC championship game for Alabama, they're still not going to run the ball. And that was, obviously the opposite of what they did against Cincinnati, where they just came out and ran down their throats. And you knew the game was over from that opening drive when they could just run the ball at will. Against Cincinnati, but it's going to be through the air. It's going to be their defense creating turnovers. Stetson Bennett had 2 interceptions to 0 for Alabama in the SEC championship game. So that's it. You're going to have to win the turnover battle, and you're going to have some big plays through the air. And doing it, they had John Mechie for the first half, at least for that football game, for the SEC championship game, but they will not obviously have him as he is out with the torn ACL. And it's just going to be one of those things where on a short, 10 days or whatever we have between the college football playoff semifinals and finals, that you think that Kirby Smart hasn't been thinking about this rematch. Of course he has. So, it gets me fired up just thinking about it, because I know a lot of people are not fired up about a rematch, but when it comes to a game like this isn't the LSU Alabama rematch where it was like the 9-6 game that we saw. That was boring. This is going to be anything but boring, in my opinion, Dan.
I agree. I want the best 2 teams playing. I do. And I think it's going to be already here in Indy, every hotel room is sold out. It's going to be crazy. I got my Bear Bryant hat on. I mean, I'm fired. I'm excited because I thought that Georgia looked so damn good beating the living hell out of a team in Michigan. And I mean physically beating the living hell out of a team in Michigan that had beat the living hell out of 2 tough teams, Iowa and Ohio State. So I'm with you. I mean, all right, by percentage, what percentage do you think Caleb Williams actually leaves Oklahoma?
Actually leaves Oklahoma.
Actually leaves.
I would say 75% gone at this point in time. Now, I love that he came out and said Oklahoma will still be an option. But he went through and explained, like, if you want to be able to talk to other teams, these are the rules that the NCAA has put in place. For me to be allowed to talk to other teams, I have to enter the transfer portal. And it's kind of crazy, right? We all knew that NIL was going to change things. These transfer rules were going to be different. And you now see, like, college football, any kid can leave at any season, right? Like the NFL guys are under contract for a couple of years at least. Now we have free agency potentially every single year for college football players with a one-time transfer rule. And then you could go again for a grad transfer. You can hop out one more time. But when you look at Caleb Williams specifically, I think that he is going to look obviously for the best position to be in for the very short amount of time that he will be remaining in college football. And I don't know if it necessarily is going to be USC that he ends up with, but I would think that it still would likely be somewhere other than Oklahoma. I know they're bringing in Jeff Lebby, but I still think that there's going to be a better fit for him in his mind other than Oklahoma.
Here's the deal. Tell me if you think this is accurate. I'm Caleb Williams. Okay, yeah, I'm going to go to a place where I'm going to be a starter, right? I mean, I get it. But I'm also going to go to the place, does this factor in now where I'm going to make the most money?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course it does. I mean,
yeah.
we now know the insane amount of money that you could have in your pocket as a college football player. And I think that is one of the reasons why this transferring, it's not going to slow down now. It's only going to speed up with NIL possibilities and say, hey, like, I'm going to put my name in the transfer portal. We're going to see which boosters and which teams are going to come up and pay me the most and go with that as the option, as the final say. And, you know, the players themselves haven't had the power in collegiate athletics ever until right now. And so there's a lot still to be worked out and a lot of framework to be put in place. But right now it's just the wild, wild west. And we get to see all the entertainment that will come from this.
Yeah, none of it really bothers me. I thought it would. I honestly don't care. And I don't care about kids opting out. But let me ask you, because I've said this, and I don't know if you feel this way, but I sat on my ass all day Friday watching football, all day Saturday watching football. And I got to tell you, I disagreed with Kirk Herbstreit. I agree with his right to say it, and I think he feels it. But I don't care. Opt out, opt in. I thought it was all great theater, and I don't care. So how do you feel about the best players opting out of bowl games?
Listen, we still got great games, like you're saying. I was with you. I mean, I was watching all of the games. It was a great couple of days of college football. We have the entertainment value. That's what we need. That's ESPN needs to have good, compelling games to make all of the money that they need to make off of college football for you know, all this that they get for bowl season. Great. We need the entertainment value so that we still watch them. It's all still there, right? Like, you can't tell me, like, and I thought that Pittsburgh, Michigan State wasn't going to be as good of a game without Kenneth Walker III, without Kenny Pickett. And then the Pitt starting quarterback goes out right away and you get the third string guy in. And it's still one of the best games that we saw all college football season. So that alone right there, that game says to me, like, hey, opt out, opt in. Like, you know, I said before the games a couple weeks ago on your show, I was like, if you're a running back, opt out. I totally get it. Short shelf life. You get one torn ACL, it really affects you. But now, after going through this bowl season and seeing so many players opt out, we still get good games. Like, there's that. Look at the end, right, of the Rose Bowl. It wasn't an opt out, but Cam Rising got injured, was out of the game. We had a pig farmer, Dan, a pig farmer, walk on quarterback going in for the Utes, who scored a touchdown against Ohio State in the Rose Bowl. That was great. Like, come on. This is amazing. And this is like one of the reasons why we love college football, because you never know what's going to happen. It's not the NFL. We don't know these guys for 20 years, for 12 years, however long they've been in the league. No, like this is a pig farmer that came in and gave us a compelling finish in the Rose Bowl.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. Any league surprise you, good or bad? Any team?
I wouldn't say that it was necessarily a surprise, but one of the biggest disappointments was the Pac-12. I used to work with the Pac-12 network forever. They haven't won a bowl game since 2019, since Justin Herbert was the quarterback playing against Wisconsin in the Rose Bowl. I think that it just goes to show you the state of the league. Now, again, that Utah game, it was fantastic. Had Cam Rising stayed in, we don't really know what would have happened. Whoever had the ball last probably would have won. But I look at that, and I think that the games that will stick out to me was the Music City Bowl, Purdue and Tennessee.
All right, hold it. I got people wanting me to ask you.
Okay.
Was forward progress stopped?
Oh, this was interesting. Okay, so he stopped moving his feet. If you watch, he did stop moving his feet at one point in time, which you got to be like your guy there in Indy, Jonathan Taylor. Like that's one of the best things about him is his feet would never stop moving. He would have been going the whole time. Right. That being said, the game never should have been in overtime. Dan, Josh Heupel has a great offense.
Oh my gosh!
Offense, but you're telling me that this is what you work on if you're Tennessee: a 2-minute drill that is effective at the end of the game. Because
what was he doing?
They needed 7 yards, I think, for a first down, and all you had to do was get in field goal position. Dan, a field goal,
all.
Like. Get in field goal position. Do whatever you have to do. Don't do these stupid things at the end of regulation. So that made me mad when they didn't tackle the tight end. They had like 5 guys out there who was just running up the sideline. I was like, all right, listen, if you don't do that, if you can't tackle and you can't get in field goal position, you don't deserve to win the game. So when they said the forward progress just stopped, they did stop moving. I do understand that on 4th down and overtime in a college bowl game, you don't make that call, but they did.
Uh-oh.
Did we lose each other?
Not now. I just heard you. You lost me for a minute. Oh, boy.
Oh, no. They're
panicking.
Coming for you. They're coming for you, Dan. You had such an epic start. Such an epic start to your show today. They can't handle you.
I can't. No. I'm with you, though. Tackle the tight end. Freaking get 7 yards. What were they doing?
Hey, come on. It's all led to the craziness that we love in bowl season. And tackling was not one of the better things that we saw in this bowl season. I will say that. Tackling was not at a premium, Dan.
No. It was very unenthusiastic tackling. Let's put it that way. All right, Jill, you ready? I got some predictions I want you to react to.
Let's go.
Tom Brady will win the NFL MVP because voters won't vote for Aaron Rodgers.
You know, I do. I saw that take. I loved it when Clay came out and said everybody's going to be so woke and so upset that they won't vote for Aaron Rodgers. But I think that after Tom Brady had that performance against the Saints where they didn't score any points against a very beaten up Saints team.
Yes.
I mean, the Saints hadn't been great in the last couple of weeks, and Tom Brady didn't manage to get a single point. I think that will hurt him. The last couple of weeks, just, they weren't the best for Tampa Bay. So if Tom Brady had stayed even with Aaron Rodgers, I think you could say that. But if the Packers go through and beat Detroit, they're going to end up, I think 14-3, I want to say, at the top of the NFC. The NFC is by far the best right now in football. And you have so many teams stacked on that side versus the AFC that I think it would be very difficult still, as much as people would want to do it, to vote against Aaron Rodgers. I don't think that it's possible. And I think that's also what we started off our segment. This is the time where things are changing in 2022 and you can say things, even though they don't like it. I think it's still going to be Aaron Rodgers.
I do too. Antonio Brown will never play in the NFL again.
Yeah, that's a fact. I think that he has had so many different opportunities, right? When you look back at his time with the Raiders and he had the thing with the helmet. He's like, I don't want to wear this helmet. And it's like, have we ever thought about wearing a helmet or not? Like what brand it is or anything? No. And then you go through and Tom Brady is, he can resurrect anyone. And he was still so kind and generous to him just after the game and in the comments that he was just making, like, hey, like, get the guy help. We still love him. We're still all here for him. But I think that his time, and you have to have in the NFL, it's proven the negatives can't outweigh the positives. You can be so talented, but now at this point in time, I think that Antonio Brown, he's going to have too many negatives going against him, and he's not going to play in the NFL again.
When I did this rundown, it was before the Pittsburgh Steelers game. It's obviously Big Ben is going to retire. We'd sent you, is Big Ben going to retire? It's obviously he's going to retire.
Yeah.
But let me ask you, what's his legacy?
Oh, man. I mean, you see one guy with one team for that long. And I loved the interview that Lisa Salters did with him after the game and how emotional he was. It's like, this is, he's going to be a Hall of Fame quarterback. And it's so cool just to see the way the city embraces him and the city of Pittsburgh and the fans that they have. It's just a legendary program that they have built there throughout time and has been able to sustain it over so many decades, right? Like, when you think of the Pittsburgh Steelers, they don't go through coaching changes. They don't go through different quarterbacks. Like, they have stability there. And Ben Roethlisberger was able to provide a ton of stability. Now, he had off-field issues. We all know about it. But I think that he was able to overcome them and kind of show that he was a better guy than that at the end. And I think that I just look at it and it's like, man, that's going to be one of the all-time greats for forever in the NFL.
You know what? I feel like I'm old because 100 years ago, must be 20 years ago, I offered him a basketball scholarship to Bowling Green when he was like a wide receiver his junior year in high school, because the high school quarterbacks or the high school coach's son was the quarterback, and they came to my basketball camp, Findlay High School, and I'm like, hey, I know you're a football player, but damn, I'll give you basketball, because he was a great leader. Mike Vrabel will be the NFL's Coach of the Year.
He has to.
What say you?
He has to be. He has
Agreed.
to be. They are right now the top seed in the AFC. Like, if you go through and you took Derrick Henry out of the lineup for half of the season, over half the season now, it's like you take the absolute leader for the MVP at that point in time, right? Gosh, how many weeks was he still the leading rusher after he was out, right? Like, he was out probably 7 or 8 weeks, I think, and he was still in the top 5 for rushing yards in the NFL. And it just shows you the impact that he had as one player. He had the most impact of any single player on an NFL team. You took him away, and they still were able to piecemeal this thing together week to week. Now, it was not pretty for many weeks for them, but they were able to come through and got some, I don't know if you'd say like super quality victories, but they got some victories. And now you see them in a position to potentially get Derrick Henry back for the playoffs, is what everybody's saying. They're out of Tennessee. And man, if you go through and see just the amount of work that Vrabel had to do, I think it was 88 players that they're up to using this season, which is the most ever for an NFL team. The injuries that you've gone through, not just Derrick Henry, but all over the place. And, Julio Jones plays for one game and doesn't play like the next 4 or 5 weeks. And then you have Brown back in the lineup now for them. And you see what a weapon that he could be. It's been an incredible season for the Titans.
AJ Brown was out. I mean, I went to the Titans game in Nashville against the Colts, and I think he played. I don't even know if he played. Julio Jones hasn't been very good, has been hurt, has been a disappointment. I mean, regardless of the reason, he's been a disappointment. And here they are. And think about this, Jill. If they win this week, they're the number 1 seed, gives them an extra week to get Derrick Henry back before they play in the playoffs. I mean, you got salute. A tip of the Bear Bryant hat to you, Mike Vrabel. I am ranting about the Jags. Trent Baalke is the general manager. Now, he was the general manager at San Francisco with the 49ers. I think when they went to the Super Bowl, he gets a second chance here as a general manager. If you are the Jags, you get rid of Urban Meyer. Do you just clean house, get rid of everybody, and start it over again?
At this point, I would. I was listening to you, and you have way more information for the Jags than I do at this point in time. But I think that just looking at the culture from the outside, it feels like a fresh start is probably going to be the best thing for the Jaguars, because you look at that and it was embarrassing what they were doing this weekend. Like, they weren't even trying. It was just like, come on. Like, you still are NFL players. You still go out there and compete, right? Like, we're talking about college football playoffs and opt-outs and all that. Like, the guys that were still on the field, though, were still competing. You're NFL players making millions of dollars. You still have to go out there and compete. We play to win the game, Herm Edwards.
We play to win the game.
This is why you take the field. Like, you don't take the field just, all right, you know what? I'm done. I'm out. Like, you still have another week as well. Like, that wasn't the final weekend for you. You still have another game. Come on. It's just one of those things that I look at it. I'm like, that's embarrassing if you're a part of that organization right now. And if it was me, I would just say, all right, let's try again, start anew, and go in with a new GM, a new head coach, and get this thing turned around.
And I do know a lot about the inside of it. In fact, I was texting with Urban this morning, and one of the things, internal leaks, I mean, from coaching staff, assistants, and it was all the offensive staff. Defensive staff was great, and they elevated these clowns. Players know.
Yeah.
I guarantee, like Urban has told me forever, and this is going back, he goes, Dan, the players weren't the problem. He goes, players were great. Players wanted to be coached. I knew most of them going in. He goes, they weren't the problem. He goes, the problem was these freaking coaches. Everybody's got an agent. Everybody wants to move up. Everybody wants to bitch, whine, and moan. And the players know it. They know. Players know. And so now, because the players do know, and honest to God, because they know, they're not playing for these idiots. I mean, it's just the way it is, and you're exactly right. They look to me, Jill, like a team you would expect out of a college team that lost all its best players and said, screw it. But college kids are battling their ass off, NFL guys quitting. I agree. That's a great point you made.
Yeah, when you
I don't like when people make better points than me, Jill.
Well, we can go back to talking about AOC and how, everybody just wants to date her, and that's it. If you have any criticism about her, you just want to date her.
But no, Jill, you're absolutely right. College kids, they saw a challenge, and you mentioned it, the pig farmer. There's all kind of great stories. They saw a challenge, and they met the freaking challenge. The Jaguars saw a challenge, talked about it. I've lost a little respect for Trevor Lawrence because he did a lot of talking, and then they folded. It's not right. It's bad business, the NFL, with that.
It goes to the heart of why we love college sports, pro sports. It's the competition, right? Like, and this is the thing that, let's just bring it back to America. Like, we love winners, and we've taken away winners and losers. And winners and losers, Dan, I'm telling you, they're going to make a comeback in 2022. We have to, for the sake of society. We have to bring back winners and losers.
Players know. We got to bring it back, Jill. Can we get a slogan going? Bring back winners.
Yeah, bring back winners. Winners only.
I'm gonna get my what was the jacket? Members only jackets were big in my day. Feathered hair, members only, a little necklace. I'm going to bring my members only, but I'm going to change it and say winners only jackets. That's what we're going with.
Love it. I love it.
Thanks. You're awesome, man. Thanks for the time. Great stuff. Absolutely fantastic stuff today. Thank you.
Always love it, Dan. I love the energy that you're bringing into 2022.
Winners only, Jill.
Winners only. Let's go.